Hey boys and girls, so you probably landed on this video because you're thinking, what's he going to say that I don't already know, or what mod is he going to tell us to do which doesn't work, or something like that. Anyway, all of you know the M52 B28 and associated engines, straight six, 200 horsepower or so out the box. Pretty good engines, but quite restricted from the factory. Obviously they don't make a ton of power even when they're modified, but they make much better power and much more responsive in how they drive. But what is the best bang for buck mod that you can do to these engines that doesn't cost £2,000 or even £1,000, even less than that, while still retaining good economy and like fine to drive, not too intrusive on how the car drives or anything like that? I've driven lots of cars with M50 inlets, the typical larger inlet manifold off the M50 B25, which goes here in place of the restrictive factory one. I've driven cars with cams and M50 inlets, cars with decat exhaust, cars with all sorts of different mods, cone filters, no cone filters, just remaps, no remaps, cars that are rusty as hell so they're a bit lighter, that always helps, and also cars that are just stripped out race cars, and that does help. But obviously they don't become, well, they're not very nice daily drivers. Anyway, in my opinion, best bang for buck mod you can do on any E36, E46 era 6-cylinder petrol engine is to swap out the nasty dual mass. Obviously these are lovely and comfy, smooth, quiet, all that kind of stuff when they're good and new. When they get old, obviously they can need replacement. Generally they're pretty reliable, but my issue with these are the factory one weighs an absolute ton. Pressure plate, clutch, an absolute ton. So this one is a lightweight 5 kilogram. This is the stock dual mass original BMW piece. The weight difference is pretty insane. It's about, the stock one's about 12 kilograms. I know they don't look much lighter side by side, but this is the stock one, which is about 12 kilograms. It's bloody heavy to lift up. And this is the lightweight flywheel, which is single mass, super light, very, very good upgrade. Let's talk about the pros and cons. So the pros of the dual mass is, well, it doesn't cost you anything because it's already probably fitted to your car. If they're in good working order, they're lovely and quiet, smooth. That's, in my opinion, about the only pros to them. Cons, well, once they're 20 plus years old, which they all are unless they've been replaced, the inner workings wear, and obviously that can cause you some issues. If you've ever driven one of these cars, you'll notice that when you're driving quite aggressively and you go to change between second or third or fourth gear at high RPM, the revs on the car will hang, and it will almost seem like you've got clutch slip, and that's because this thing weighs so much. The inertia of it takes such a while for it to catch up to match the speed of the engine, and the gearbox to match the speed of the engine, sorry. So by having this on there, you end up with a real sloppy, when you want to drive the car normally, absolutely fine. When you want to drive the car hard, you end up with a real sloppy sort of gear shift, and it's just not conducive to fast road driving, in my opinion. When you look at this one, so let's talk about the cons first. Well, obviously if you're putting a very light flywheel on some engines, you could get a lot of chatter and stuff like that from the flywheel, because you're essentially taking out a like a vibration damper, noise damper. That can be a problem. On these 6-cylinder engines, they are silky smooth, really smooth engines. They either look like 800 RPM or 750 RPM, something like that. So they're really smooth, and in my opinion these go hand in hand with the 6 cylinders. You will get some noise and chatter. That is a trade-off of going with a single mass more than you would with a dual mass. But look, if you want performance and you want to drive the car, there's no mod which is outright 100% improvement. With, there's always a trade-off. So if I said to you there's no cons with using this, I'd be lying to you. You can get some noise and chatter coming into the cabin. Now you can get rid of some of that by using a different type of pressure plate. So what I'm going to use on this one is an unsprung clutch disc. but you can get sprung clutch discs, I believe, from an E34 M5. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm right in saying that. And that would help with some of the noise transfer and chatter that you get from running a single mass. I'm not too fussed about that, and I've got this clutch disc, so this is what I'm using. So this is the stock 3 to 8 clutch disc, 240mm diameter, that came off the dual mass, and it's fine to reuse with this flywheel. The beauty of this is it's in good health, so there's no reason to bin it, and I can reuse it. But obviously, in an ideal world, if your clutch disc is not up to much, then you would go and buy a new sprung clutch disc. But like me, if you just want to have something that works, you're not too fussed about a bit more noise, a bit more vibration as you're pulling off, then go with the solid one that's unsprung, and that'll be fine with it. So the main pros, so the cons are, okay, possibly a bit more chatter as you select a gear. Other than that, there aren't really that I've encountered. The pros are, it totally changes the character of these engines. So these engines are real lethargic when they're stock. They feel real sort of lazy to rev, real slow to pick up through the rev range. Obviously they've got quite long diff ratios, so you know they're geared for sort of economy and motorway running, let's be honest. But you can get around that, not even touch the diff, and just chuck in one of these lightweight flywheels. They are, I mean, it depends what brand you buy. This particular one is a TTV Racing. They're about 360 quid. And obviously it depends if you want to buy a new clutch or if you can reuse the old one. Depends how much it's going to cost you and how crazy you go. Do you know, what else do you change whilst you're in there? Do you gearbox mounts, a guivo, stuff like that? But as a bare minimum, you could just bolt this on, 360 quid. The only stuff you need to change, if you're going to a single mass flywheel, is you've got to change the bolts, because the stock ones are long. Single mass flywheel, you need to use short ones. So you can get these from like an automatic car, because it's got a shorter flywheel on an auto. Well, it's not really got a flywheel, it's just a starter ring, but you get the gist. So yeah, anyway, totally wakes the car up. The throttle response is different world compared to the dual mass. The gear changes are way more responsive. None of this sort of clutch slipping, sort of lazy car feeling, lazy revving. So it's all pros in my book and very little cons. Now, if it's a daily driver and you're not fussed about performance and you're happy just pooling around, stick with the dual mass. For anyone else who wants to drive their car, wants to push the thing a bit harder than BMW probably planned for people to do, stick a lightweight flywheel in. Don't bother an M50 inlet, cams, remap, decat exhaust. Don't worry about any of that stuff. If you've only got 500 quid to spend and you want to wake the car up and you want your best bang for buck, lightweight flywheel. Obviously, if you've got 2 or 3 grand to play with, do this, then do the cams, then do M50 inlet, then play with the exhaust and do all of that stuff, and you'll see 250, 260 brake. But if you've got a stock car and you're on a small budget and you think, what is the best bang for buck? It is without doubt, in my opinion, a lightweight flywheel. This one is 5 kilograms. You can get some heavier ones that are like, I think, a Valio single mass conversion kit, but they're still heavy. They're still like, I think they're over 10 kilograms. You're not really going to notice a huge improvement. Yeah, it will be an improvement, but it's not a lightweight flywheel. So go and hunt one of these down. I'll drop a link below where you can find them. I do sell them, but you haven't got to buy mine. You can buy any brand. Something between sort of 4 and probably 7 kilos is what we would deem as a fast road / track car, a lightweight flywheel. But yeah, go and hunt one of them down, bolt one of them on, and gonna have some fun in your car. It's the best bang for buck you can get.